Hey everybody, welcome to the Midwinter podcast where we talk about indie game development on our game Scavengers and just indie game development in general. I am Carl Sodella, the community manager. I'm here with two of the UI design team, Jeremy McCarty and Jonathan Schwartz. How you doing, guys?
Doing well. How are you, Carlos?
We're all doing great.
We're here. We got free lunch. We're playing games. We love it.
We did get free lunch today.
Yeah.
Both of you guys are on UI design team.
Yep.
What does that specifically mean? Jeremy, what does your day-to-day look like?
So it really depends. I'm a little bit more on the technical design side, so I do a lot of the coding work and a lot of the work in the widgets that you see. So it's a lot of bug fixing, a lot of piecing together. I end up doing a lot of prototyping and mocking up stuff. It can pretty much vary every single day, which is great. That's what I love about what I do.
He's a wizard.
He is a wizard.
On my Slack profile, it says widget wizard. So
nice.
There you go. I didn't know that.
There you go. Now you do.
And knowing's half the battle.
Yeah.
Also, you're Squints on the community.
I am Squints.
Yes.
That's me.
That's you. And Jonathan, what does your day-to-day look like?
My focus is more on the art side of UI. I like to collaborate and work with everybody on ideas and prototyping and stuff. I've been on the team for a month now, so I'm still ramping up on some things, but very excited to be working with these folks.
Hey, we're excited to have you. This is a super important topic, and I think everybody knows that once they finally get into playing a video game.
Yes.
Because you're like, how do I play this game? Or like, what is this about? And how can I quickly get into this game and understand what this is all about?
Yeah, the weird thing with UI is that the game can be amazing and like technologically unbelievable, but if the UI is awful, it's going to put a lot of people off from playing games. So UI is kind of like the front line for games, which is a fun place to be, but it's also super stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, for you guys.
It's fine. We have a lot of cool stuff in our game to show, and we want to make sure that we're showing all the right stuff, and I think we're in a good spot. We have a pretty solid foundation, and we're just working hard every day.
So speaking of working, what are some things you guys worked on in the past?
Oh, I've done pretty much touched every part of the UI, at least right now. Everything from working in this, the front end main menu stuff like lobby flow, to the hotbar in the game for swapping weapons, inventory, crafting, the map.
You name it.
Yeah,
That's
if you see it in 2D, chances are I coded something on it.
It's everything.
2D Master. I'm going to
Yeah.
put that now to a new title for you.
Perfect.
2D Master.
Sure.
Jonathan, you just got here.
Yeah.
But what did you do in the past, other companies you worked for?
Other companies, I worked at 343 for a while, worked on a couple of Halos, did Turok, reboot back in the early 2000s, the early aughts,
Nice.
as they say. And before that, Def Jam Fight for New York at EA Canada.
So cool.
Yeah, there's so many good, amazing games that people worked on at the studio.
Yeah.
It's just crazy when you start going through the list. It's like, all of them?
Yeah.
Like, there's so many games.
It's very intimidating. So this is my first job in the industry, and seeing like Jonathan, who's worked in there for a long time, and then we're just like working neck and neck. It's like weird ends of the spectrum, and I love it. It's so cool.
No, I love that about this company in general. Is like we have the gamut. We have young people, and mid-aged people. Let's just put myself in that category. I don't know.
Middle age is very kind.
Middle-aged,
Very
okay.
generous.
Yes. And then you have people, veterans and stuff like that, and just to have that mix is delightful.
It's amazing.
Let's get into some community questions, guys.
Yes.
Sure.
Are you ready for this?
I'm so ready.
Don't look ahead. You're trying to read it upside down.
Trying.
You didn't see that because it's not a visual podcast, but
Trust me,
Jeremy
he
was
did.
trying to read upside down.
Yeah.
Okay, number one. This is from Skytrigger on Discord. Is there a science to designing the first mock-up for a potential UI?
Oh, Science-ish. It depends on like at what stage. For the first mock-up, probably not. A lot of times your first mock-up is just like, I'm going to throw out like all the ideas that I have stuck in my head and kind of do a bunch of variations all the time. Usually like they're all drastic. So one could be super simple, one's very intense and intricate. And then as you get more narrowed down on that mock-up and towards final, what you actually want to have in the game, then it gets more scientific. Like, well, are we really sure that players' eyes are going to be drawn to this location when we have these animations over here? And like all that stuff tends to work towards how people's brain works and how we're wired to see things and act on rewards and all that fun stuff. So it gets to a science at some point.
Jonathan, what do you think?
I agree.
That's it. That was super easy.
Well, it's all about what's intuitive, what's not when you're looking at something. Like you gave an example of the animation. That's a really good thing. Like what's leading the eye, what's getting your attention, how much information is on the screen at once. How do we don't want to overload you. And then there's the old dilemma, console versus PC. I come from a console background, so it's straddling that fine line that works for both of them. So.
Yeah, it's got to be interesting because you can have that in your brain and it's like visualizing it, but then people have to play it.
Yeah.
And then playtest happens and that probably changes, oh wait, we thought that was going to be great.
Oh yeah, like we can work on something and everyone work together and it's like, yeah, this makes sense, let's do it. And then it goes out in the wild or gets some testing done and it's like, oh, well, there's other perspectives that we have to consider and so we attack it again.
Yeah.
There's also like the downfall of putting too much science in too early, because then if it doesn't fit with the game or something pivots and it doesn't actually work, then you're like, oh, I just wasted a bunch of work.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't want that.
Nope.
Dr. AKA Riss on Discord asks, UI team, how and where you balance the simplicity over usefulness? Or how and when, basically how and when do you balance the simplicity over usefulness? Second question, how much psychology goes into creating UI? Well, they really want to get deep on this.
Yeah.
What's your brain thinking?
Ugh.
Just how about tackle the simplicity over usefulness? Is that a differentiation?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like looking at, so there's a lot of awesome games that have come out recently that have been leaning more towards the simplicity of UI. It's taking like Fallen Order, for example. Like their UI is unbelievably minimal on the screen, but there's a lot of content that they show you in menus or a lot of things that they show you like in the front end or things like that. So it's very simplistic in their shape language and the art that they use. It's very Star Wars, which is great. But then on the other side, there's like World of Warcraft mods where it's like, what box do you want to show on the screen? And you can fill up your whole screen with UI, and it helps people, but like that's valid for those gamers, and then the simplicity is valid for some gamers and some games. It's just what fits for the game, I think. Is
I feel like you can get too simple, and then you're like, well, I don't have all the information I need.
Yeah. And then you can get too overly complex, and it's like, well, now I have too much information. I can't find the information that I need.
Yeah. If it's too simplistic, you're gonna get frustrated because you don't know what to do. But if there's too much going on, then you can't figure out what you're supposed to be doing, and so you get frustrated.
Right.
Like the example of Fallen Order was great because that's like they wanted to, in my opinion, make a purely cinematic, immersive experience. So. Rockstar is pretty good at that in general as well. Just strip away everything, but they somehow find a way to make it clear what you're supposed to be doing.
It's interesting. Sometimes people do that, and then they put all these other menus in these other places, and I just never use them.
Yeah, it happens
right?
a lot.
And so then I just feel like that's like you said, you don't want to have people wasting their work. Like all that stuff that people spend a lot of time on, I'm not watching.
Or you don't know it's there.
I might not know it's there.
Yeah,
that's true too.
That's the other bad thing.
Yeah, and then we get like into the trying to juggle how much time. That's something that we work on like pretty much constantly, is how much of the game are players spending in their menus. We're not a menu game, so like what can we do to pull that stuff out? What can we do to make it so you don't have to open up menu, navigate tabs, click on boxes, go through scroll bars when you should be shooting your enemies.
And die when you're in a menu.
Yeah.
Like I just did 10 minutes ago.
Did you?
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the worst.
That's rough.
Maybe we should just like pivot and make like a side game that's just a menu game.
Wow.
It's like, like idle clicker games.
Yeah.
I bet you that exists.
I bet you it exists.
Yeah.
Josh would be down.
All right, let's go.
He would not be down.
Jeremy's shaking his head no. Number 3 question comes from Scientist. Whoa, a lot of science. But PSY, Intist.
Perfect.
On Discord. What's the hardest UI that you've worked on, either here or anywhere else / most challenging? Probably
Everyone's
good question
looking
for
at
Jonathan.
me.
Yeah.
Well, Def Jam was tough and exciting at the same time because that was the first time I'd worked in games. I'd done lots of UI before that. So just learning all about game development and how to prepare textures and all that jazz. And we were using an early version of Flash. Halo is pretty complicated. There's a lot of people there, a lot of great people there. It's just so big. That thing is so big that one or two people can't do it all. So I'd say Halo's probably been the toughest because of just the size of it and the amount of people that need to work together and collaborate. Yeah.
Right. So so it sounds like your first job and a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With scavengers, what I've been finding in the year that I've been here is the map is probably one of the harder challenges that we've had, because the map is needing to update your player's position and enemy positions and all that stuff, and it needs to be performant enough to where all that data going over the network isn't going to kill the performance, and it's just a lot. And there's been many iterations on the map, and we're going through one right now just to make it as fast as possible, and that's been just a wonderful challenge for our engineers here to tackle.
Yeah, that was a very nice way to say it.
Wonderful
challenge.
And there were no air quotes when you said it.
No, not at all. That was just like pure honesty. I love the challenge, Carlos. Let's go to another one from Timberwolf on Discord. Oh, so these are now getting kind of very specific on our game.
Cool.
And so this one's actually pretty long.
Love it.
I'm going to have to take a couple breaths.
Okay.
If you're running low on ammo, have a grenade at your feet, incoming enemy fire, the storm approaching, plus an animal is attacking, how do you prioritize which on-screen indicators reach the player's attention first? Great question.
Fantastic question, and what keeps me up at night.
He just talked about Jeremy's nightmares. That's
Yeah.
essentially what he did.
It's a constant battle. The weird thing with UI that we kind of see in other aspects of the game, but we're always fighting other systems for attention, and UI is more informative than anything, so we're always fighting the hardest to draw players' attention to a UI element. And sometimes too much like animation or too much effects on screen will like overload players, and then they'll ignore it. So it's finding the right balance and seeing what we can do in areas to simplify, and if we can reuse like some language, like if we're using a warning system, for example, like can we reuse that warning system based on if you're in the storm or if you're getting attacked, or
Right, like our damage indicator thing
Yeah,
we have, right?
exactly.
We can use that for a couple different things.
yeah, and like the ping system that we have, like we can use it as an informational system. We can use it as a, hey, there's an enemy over there. We can use it for folks who don't necessarily want to be on voice chat to be able to communicate and feel involved with their teammates. So it's trying to do a lot of things with little systems that kind of is what makes UI shine. And that's why it's so easy to mess up UI. It's because we'll solve it by just throwing it on the UI. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Players need to know this thing. Sure, just put a UI up. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Everything will be fine.
No.
Well, actually, I'll have Jonathan answer the second part of this. What visual aesthetic elements of a HUD are best used to discern this information from the mundane? Kind of interesting way to put it, but
Well, that's a tough question.
no, I don't know. I'm just asking the questions.
Yeah. Can you repeat that question?
I sure can. It's just basically like what aesthetic elements of a HUD
Yeah.
are best used to basically stand out, I think, is what they're trying to say.
I don't know how to answer that question.
Okay. We'll give it a NA, not
NA.
applicable.
Yeah, we're still working on it.
We're working
Yeah,
on it.
I mean, there's all kinds of factors that go into that. It's like, what's the overall aesthetic for the game you're going for? Is it minimal? Is it not minimal? What the first part of that question, with all these things happening at the same time, what do you want to bring attention to, focus to? You know, the aesthetic, the animation, how strong it is, how much real estate it takes up. All these things factor into those things.
I'm really hearing that it's so dependent. Everything is so dependent on what game you're working on, the feel that you want to do, and also, as I've been witnessing here, as the process of development goes on, that changes too.
Yeah.
So like, oh, we were really about this, and now our game is actually more about this. Then that means the elements are going to change. It's
Yeah. I mean,
crazy.
that happened
Pivot.
last week.
Pivot.
Yeah.
Pivoting. Pivot for the win. Okay.
If
moving
anyone
on.
gets that reference from Friends, you win 10 points.
I got 10 points, you guys.
You got 10 points? I got 0 points then.
Okay,
Sorry.
I almost said dollars.
No one's winning money on this
That
podcast.
would have been very bad.
This is a free podcast.
Very bad.
No money. Okay, this is the last question, I think, but there's many parts to it. It comes from Mad Sorcerer, always tons of questions. What was the reason behind changing the infected bar from a bar that visually increases in progress to the one that decreases, like the warmth bar? That's a big question.
That's a good one.
Yeah, so it was kind of something that we had been talking about for a while, because the way that our cold system works and the way that our hunger system works made it so that the infection system was going directly opposite of that. And as we have been talking about, making sure players can like understand the language and they don't have to relearn a thing, and we can utilize repetition. That's why we decided to go that route, to where it's like your stability or your immunity is kind of draining down at that point, because all the bars now are moving in the same direction. You know, my bar is going down. The gap between the right side and the left side is larger, therefore I'm probably in a bad state. Bad state is really good for us, because that's one less thing that we have to show the player in another way. So it's something that it took playtesting and figuring out, like, are people actually getting it? And that's why our playtests are so important, is we're getting so much feedback on, like, well, this didn't actually make sense to me, and we can look at it and analyze it and redesign it.
Well, there's consistency with that too, right? If you're looking at these 3 bars and 2 of them, it's bad if it goes down, but this one is bad if it goes up. If we keep them all consistent, then it's a lot easier for the player to grok.
Yeah, and I think the main one with that is because it's infection, and that's kind of a different type of thing.
Yeah, because if you look at, like, infection, you're little infection, great. Lots of infection, bad. So you go up. Moving a bar to the right is usually natural with going up or increasing. So it's backwards. But we fixed it, and it feels good.
And people, and then the follow-up was, is it going to stay that way?
Yes, and thanks for noticing.
Thanks for noticing.
We did our jobs.
We're working on these things. The other question is, have you considered adding on-screen waypoints to objective sites with distance markers to deciding where to go next easier?
Yes. Yeah.
Is it just yes, period, and then moving on?
No, we're working on a pretty robust system right now for helping players navigate and
nav markers.
Yeah, Jonathan's come in and been really helpful as fresh eyes, especially because we've been playing every day for like the past N number of months, and Jonathan's coming in and been really great to have you look at these areas that we kind of lack. And that was something with the playtest feedback that we got as well, like not knowing where to go, and a lot of that falls on UI, what we can do to communicate that better, and we have a pretty solid system we're excited about.
That's a yes then.
Yeah.
Big yes, capital.
Yeah,
big yes.
Capital Y-E-S.
Yeah.
C.
Did the storms have a visual direction indicator on the map? Did the storms, so you could tell at a glance? I don't get that sentence fully, but indicators for storm, maybe direction.
They want to know where they're moving.
We used to have them, or we don't?
They're there, but again, it's very, like, it's hard to tell. We probably went too simplistic on that, where we should probably just like be boosting that up. But yeah, they all the storms now move in the same direction, so they all have arrows on them. But we can make it better.
Yeah, I don't think I've noticed that
I didn't.
much.
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
The more you know.
And we're learning on this podcast.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding.
Okay, well, you guys got the ding, ding, ding because you got through all the questions.
Ooh, that's great.
Before I let you go, anything you're working on right now that's exciting that you can tell the community about?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we're all pretty excited about on the UI team is kind of streamlining the whole menu flow with our like crafting screen and inventory, and making sure that if you pop up your inventory, you know what items are what's food, what's a health aid, what's ammo, and separating that stuff out and building a common language. That is going to be something that is going to add a lot of informational value to our game, and having that is going to be exciting. That's
what you're working on right now. Part of it.
Part of it.
And
one of the many.
It's awesome too.
Yeah.
It's going in a really good direction.
Yeah.
As for myself, I am working on reticles. Jeremy's been helping out a lot too, giving all the reticles some upgrades in terms of how they function and how they map to weapon spread and the visual look of them. That's what's on my plate at the moment.
Reticles are cool and very helpful. Again, we talk about tools that make us do well, and shoot well and survive.
Reticles are huge for that.
It's important to keep warm and survive.
Oh, geez, it's like he knows our description of our game.
Yeah.
I'm going to thank you guys both for being here.
Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you. And more information on scavengers coming soon in a new podcast of one of these.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, Carlos.
You're welcome. I have no ending to this.
Let's go get a sandwich.
You're so
okay. I already had a sandwich.
You're very handsome.
Oh wow! I do not believe you, but
everyone needs to know
I hope
that.
this is it.
Can we stop it?
Yeah.
Another sandwich?
No.